When we manage native grass pastures, rest is a very important concept. That rest can show up during any given grazing season. Perhaps we rest the pasture for a week or two between rotations. Perhaps it's rest late in the season before fall dormancy. But another alternative for heavily grazed pastures is simply to have a season of rest. So what you see here is a big blue stem Indian grass pasture that had been grazed for about 3 years in a row, and I'm close to the water, as you can see. And so this is the part of the pasture that's been most heavily used. And so much of this area had been grazed down beyond the threshold we'd like to see and spent a good deal of time below, say, 8 inches tall. But what we want to show you is that even though in some places the pasture's gotten thin, we still have native grass plants competing in here, and you see several of them growing up around me. This area here, which has remained fairly thick, continues to grow, and really, despite 3 years of what I would call pushing the limits of grazing intensity, it looks pretty darn good. And after this year of rest, it's going to look exceptional. Let me show you the results from an old study. This was done way back in 1955. And what we can see from this study is that if we leave as much as half of the leaf surface area on that plant, we have almost no impact on the roots. And that is why we can get away with a season-long grazing. Because as long as we're leaving these plants about half foliated, they don't really need a rest period. Now, if we're doing rotational grazing, maybe we're getting up in this range, we're going to have a little bit of rest in there. Doesn't have to be long. And of course, if we get really heavy in our defoliation, we may need much longer periods of rest. But that's going to just depend on how you've managed it. Let me show you a simple graphic that helps drive home this point. We've got 2 plants up here exposed to a heavy level of grazing, and as a result, no leaves, roots suffer, takes a long time to recover in the weakened plant. Down here, a lot less defoliation, plant stays more vigorous, we maintain a root system, and recovery is a lot stronger. Let me show you an extreme example here of how important rest can be. This is a big blue stem Indian grass pasture that was heavily overgrazed for 3 summers in a row. Canopies were kept down around 4 inches for much of that time. And what you can see is it's been completely taken over by weeds, in this case a bunch of cuckleburr, with just a very thin, weak stand of native grasses left. So how do we recover it? It's really not that hard. We simply rested it for a full growing season. And so here we see it the following August, and we can see that the grass has recovered a lot. We've not done a single thing to it but let it rest. We also took some of that same pasture and burned it in March, and you can see that that grass really responded to that burn and is even stronger still. So what I want you to take from this is that rest can cure an awful lot of ills in an overgrazed native grass pasture. A lot of folks seem to think that these native grasses are really frail and we can wipe them out real easily. Well, yeah, you graze them too close, you can weaken them, but we can fix most of our problems with the appropriate amount of rest. This is an extreme case and required a full season of rest, but we can get there.